It'll be open for discussion. Same rules as apply as before. Board first, audience second, 3-minute limit of anybody. What is off limits at this discussion at this time is the cost of the project and whether we should be doing it or not. There's a lot of discussion on that. We will discuss that this morning when it comes up on the agenda. For this discussion, look at the presentation. If you love it, great, tell us. If you don't love it, tell us also. If you have suggestions for changes, so anything regarding the presentation. So anything regarding the presentation is open for discussion with the exception of the financing and alternatives at this time. So please bear with us. We will discuss those items later on this morning. Thank you. Bernie?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bernie Apter. I'm chairman of the Landscape Committee. This day has been a long time coming. We started this process, believe it or not, 10 months ago when we first met Pamela. The impetus for meeting her was we've had such poor luck with our present landscaper in designing new beds for us. And the last one that they did really came out not too well. That's all I can say about it, by the lake view. So we decided to go outside the box and do something that has never been done here and find a landscape architect that could help us have a vision of what we wanted and produce beds that we could be proud of. So that being said, let me just tell you a little bit about Pamela Crawford and why she is qualified to do what she does. She's an award-winning, nationally known landscape designer who has written, believe it or not, 11 books. I have 2 of those books at my house. One is a container book for South Florida, and every gardener should have one if they're doing container gardening. It's just amazing. And her latest book is about gardening in South Florida, dealing with trees, palm trees, shrubs, palms. I mean, it just covers everything you need to know, where to plant them, how they grow, companion plants that go with them. So she's done an outstanding job with her books. She has a master's degree in landscape architecture, a postgraduate, a 4-year degree. She was awarded a prestigious Torch Award by the university as an outstanding alumnus of the School of Landscape Architect. Pamela started the first university-sponsored trial gardens. After her graduation, she bought land to start a nursery of her own and do trial gardens. She has personally tested 2,500 plants in Florida, each one for at least 10 years, to determine how these plants do, how they live, how they die, how to take care of them, how they do in the sun, how they do in the shade. She has designed over 1,600 landscapes in Palm Beach County, including 25 local country clubs. Pamela specializes in color, and that's something that we've heard from a lot of you people. We need color, color, color. Her beautiful landscapes have been widely recognized by the media. She has had 10 featured stories in Better Homes and Gardens, including 2 cover stories, 8 in Southern Living, and 6 featured articles in the Boca magazine. Pamela's work has also been covered by 2,500 newspapers. She's hosted garden shows on PBS television, has guest hosted Garden Smart TV, and numerous other television appearances have followed her work. Pamela is now Vice President of Landscape Architect at Botanical Visions, an outstanding firm on its own who has won 30 state and local awards. And believe it or not, now she wants to help Valencia Isle and add us to her list of landscape design. I think she's done an outstanding job on this, and I can't wait for you to see it. So, Pamela, it's all yours.
Bernie, wow, I appreciate that very, very much. I'm going to talk for about 5 minutes, give you a little bit of introduction. Then we're going to go straight to showing you the visuals of the project that I'm really excited that I designed for you. Bernie said a lot of really nice things about me. I think there's one thing even Bernie doesn't know. Not only have I done all these great things, but I also hold the record in South Florida for plant homicide. That's right, I have killed more plants than I bet everybody in this room. Now, this is not intentional. I moved here in 1974, shortly after college, bought a house in Coral Gables, Florida. My mother was English, and she had me growing flowers and colorful plants, but you said not to get too close to the middle, right? That woke everybody up. I had been around flowers and beautiful plants my whole life, but not in South Florida. Completely different environment. So bought my first house. I was so excited about the garden, but just nothing worked. Things kept dying and dying. One day I was in the checkout line at Publix, and I saw a magazine that had on the cover these beautiful flowers. I opened it. It was Family Circle magazine. It said these flowers bloomed all the time. They never grew over 10 inches tall, and they lived forever. I was so excited. Now, this was a time when cash was tight, but this was the answer to my prayers. I went to the nursery. They were $4 each. I bought 100 of them. They were called Gerber daisies. They went out of bloom 10 days later and died 30 days later. So I decided that I needed to find some easy plants for South Florida. I didn't know it was going to be a big deal. I didn't know that no one had ever done that before. So I ended up moving to Boca Raton in 1978 and hired a landscape architect to design a pool for me in my backyard because I couldn't figure out how everything I had tried to do myself was just awful. So she came over and we got to be friends, and she did a beautiful job. And at that point, they were starting a school in Miami. The only other school in the state of landscape architecture was at University of Florida in Gainesville. I couldn't go to Gainesville. I had a son. So they started the school in Miami, a graduate program at Florida International University. And I did something really dumb. I took all the money I had in the world, stopped working. Now, I was a single parent with a young child, and went back to school. And it's the best decision I've ever made in my life. So when I got out of school, I started trial gardens at the university because, once again, I didn't know which plants worked, and I was still trying. And then bought 5 acres of land after I graduated near Jog in Hypoluxo, where I started my nursery and my trial gardens, and that was the home base for my landscape architecture firm for many years. And basically, I bought every plant I could find. I sat down at one point and ordered the whole Burpee seed catalog at one fell swoop to plant. But I didn't have a lot of money for maintenance. Every plant got lectured as I planted it. I said, plant, this is what you're going to get. We're going to water you once a week if we remember. We're going to trim you once or twice a year. If you get bugs, you're on your own because I'm terrified of chemicals. Well, at the end of 10 years, I had put 2,500 plants through those trial gardens. 2,300 were dead. My friend said to me, Pamela, we are so sorry you had your heart and soul in that. You worked so hard for so many years and you're a complete failure. I said, no, you don't understand. I have 200 survivors. And for the very first time, I could start creating these gardens that were beautiful and that were colorful. And that's what I'm still doing today. And I'm very, very happy to be able to share some of my great survivors with you here at Valencia. I'd also like to thank the Landscape Committee and say that first time I ever came here, I felt really good because everyone was so warm and nice to me. And when we started touring, the whole community, the entry, the clubhouse, all these roadways, all I could see was beauty. I'm not talking about necessarily the beauty that was there now, but I was seeing visions of what it could be. And that's why I've really spent a lot of time on this. I'm very happy and thankful to have gotten this job, but my vision is the community as a whole. So let's get started. Can we get the... We're going to see how I am at working my laser pointer. We need the lights, too. Who back there does the lights? We need to get the lights down. I'm going to take questions afterwards. I've had questions come up, and a lot of them, whatever questions I've had that have come up, I'm going to be covering in the discussion, but any others, I'll be happy to take them when we're done. Let's see how that looks. Can you get them down just a little bit more, or you think that that's enough? Okay, first, let's go over the areas that we are including in this plan. It's small areas. It's underneath those palms along the lake, and it's on that center island, as well as the corners that are on either side of that. Everybody know where we're talking about? Okay. The design criteria, what I do is I look for designs that most people like. Color, I heard color over and over and over again. Of course, that's my forte. Updated style, clean lines and spiky accents, and also plants that are tried and true. How I determine what most people like. I do an annual analysis of styles and plants that my residential clients choose. And since I've done 1,600 designs, I have a lot of data. And then something else I have that's very important. How many of you are familiar with the website Houzz, H-O-U-Z-Z? It's the premier design website. They allow designers like myself who have many, many images shown on that site to actually see how many people have clicked on your photos and how many have been saved to idea books. So that gives me firm statistical data in terms of what people like. Common mistakes made in public plantings. I have made all of these. Get away from the middle. Number one, the designer chooses only plants he or she personally likes. That wouldn't work because obviously the plants that I like might not be what most people like. Secondly, a non-professional decides plants based on what a few of them like. Before I was a professional, I guarantee you everything I did was a complete disaster. And thirdly, a designer attempts consensus from a committee. I tried this once early on. I'm still getting an echo. Elle, can you guys hear an echo, or is it just me? We're getting an echo up here. Can we cut that down? At any rate, if I turn this way, is it better? Okay. So I made the mistake. I can't turn this way. I have to talk to you guys. Once I had a committee that I was working with, and I said, okay, we're going to go around the table, and each person choose their own plants, what they like. And I listened to one lady who said she didn't like white because her mother-in-law liked white, and she hated her mother-in-law. Another lady said she couldn't stand red. Another lady said all she wanted was very trimmed and manicured. The next lady said she wanted it to look like a country garden. And at the end of that, the only thing we could agree on was a green hedge. And I said, guys, this isn't working. Why don't you just let me put together based on what most people like? So unfortunately, we can't please everybody. I wish I could. I love to please people. I can do that for you in your own yard, but I can't if we're doing it by. So anyway, here's the idea. Choose what you like, what expresses your personal style for your own home. Let the professional, relying on hard data, choose what's best for your community. All of you are investing in your landscape, and you'll get the best return if most people think your public areas are gorgeous. Color. Over and over, residents told the landscape committee that they wanted color. Hooray! In order to get color impact in small spaces, which we're working in this particular design, each and every plant needs to offer a high percentage of color for most, if not all, the year. We want to show the color off to its best advantage by choosing companion plantings wisely. Challenges. In the lakeside plantings and the island, the majority of the plants need to be quite short. Unlike up north, we have very few plants that can be maintained under 2 feet and offer color for many years. More challenges. Both the island and the corner beds are quite small. It's very difficult to get impact in small beds. Every single plant needs to be colorful. The color needs to stand out. The budget challenge, how to save money. You can save 50 to 90% of your plant budget by using smaller plants and spacing them correctly. You can either pay the nurseries to grow large plants for you, or you can grow your investment by planting small. Many South Florida landscapes are overplanted so that they will look great immediately. As time goes on, the plants don't do well because they don't have the proper room to spread. What to expect with smaller plants and proper spacing. This landscape will not be instant. It takes between 1 and 2 years for the landscape to mature. Most of the photos you see of my work were taken 1 to 2 years after planting. Even though the plants are small, it's going to look a heck of a lot better after planting than it does right now. Updated style, clean lines, and spiky accents. You're going to see a lot. See the white plants in this picture? Those are spiky accents. That's kind of the current trend, which we're going to try to follow. Plants that are tried and true. All the plants used in our designs feature plants that have been tested for many years in multiple locations. They're all quite dependable. Does that mean no maintenance? No, the plants are alive, just like you are. They need to be taken care of. They need trimming, just like hair, and pest control if they get bugs. Weeds need to be pulled, fertilizer applied. Full care instructions will be provided. When I was doing my trials, what I was looking for were plants that needed to be touched the fewest amount of times per year possible, and the fewest number of minutes. I actually worked it out per plant at one point on spreadsheets by number of minutes they needed to be touched per year. What about bromeliads? 3 of the plants in our design are bromeliads. There's some bromeliads at Valencia Isles that look pretty awful. Does that mean that all bromeliads look awful? Valid question, but the answer is no. There are many thousands of bromeliads available. Like most plant families and genera, some are good, others are bad. The important fact is that you, or in this case I, know the difference. It's similar to my experience with perennial begonias. There are thousands of begonias, just like bromeliads, and I decided to find the best ones for South Florida back in the 90s. I picked 92 different ones, and 90 just didn't make the cut. Either they stopped blooming or they didn't grow well or whatever. 2 ended up being some of the most outstanding blooming plants for shade in South Florida. One is the odorata begonia. This plant is fabulous. You can see it there covering the ground. You can see it here covering the ground. There it is peeking over coleus. This one is the angel wing begonia in pink. See that one in the layers, the back, it's absolutely beautiful. Now, had I stopped trying before I reached the right number, I would have never known. What about bromeliads and mosquitoes? This is a very valid question because a lot of plants collect water. Palms collect water, many shade trees, a lot of spiky plants hold at least, you only need a thimbleful of water for 10 days to breed mosquitoes. Maintenance companies now, at every place where they have bromeliads, are taking, have you ever used those spreaders for spreading fertilizer in your yard? They take one of those and they put this stuff in it and they go like this. Is the microphone going to get me every time I move this way? And then they go like this, and it's done. It takes no time whatsoever. I figured out how large of an area of water you're going to have from the bromeliads that we're planting here, and it comes to 3.26 square feet. Can you see my hands? That's about this big. Now, what other areas hold water for 10 days in Valencia Isles? You have 17 lakes, gutters of 700 homes, very high risk. Storm drains, bird baths, saucers of flower pots, grill covers, and on and on. 3.2 square feet of water are the least of your water worries. Okay, let's take a look at the whole plant. This shows the 2 lakeside plantings. Then we have the 2 corners. Then we have the center island. Let's look at each one by one. Here's the before on the lakeside plantings. Here's the after. Now, this is an artist's rendering. What that means is we had an artist who actually created this on a computer. It doesn't look exactly what it's going to look like afterwards, but it does give you an idea. And what I like about doing it this way is it really shows the lines of the design, which are very important. Once again, this is an artist's rendering. This shows it from another view. It'll take about a year or 2 for it to fill in and look similar to the artist's rendering, but of course, since it's natural, the colors will be different. Let's look at the materials that we're using in this planting. Let me see if I can get this fancy poker to work. Okay, let me first just show you something about the design. We have 3 areas for accents, here, here, and here. What the accents are these white plants, those go there, and they're surrounded with these dark plants. Remember I said we're using dark and light so that the different colors show off. Then we have these dark plants, which are going here and here, with the yellow plants surrounding them. We have these plants going behind the white plants. And this is really cool because when light goes through those plants in the morning and you're looking at it driving by, it's going to literally look iridescent. And this brings me to something else, and it's that when you have plants that are colorful, that have colorful leaves, the leaves change color all year. I took pictures of this plant in January. What that means that all of this bright foliage at the top was winter growth. This darker foliage at the bottom is summer growth. So these are dark, dark in the summer and bright, bright in the winter. Same thing with this one. Some parts of the year it goes more bright colors. Other times of the year it goes more green. Here's another before and after of that lakeside planting. People look at that and they say, well, wait a second, we're looking at that from slightly above. If we're driving by, how are we going to see all the different plants? And that's because they're arranged in layers, as you see here, with the tallest plant, then another layer, another layer, another layer, another layer. We try to put 4 layers of color whenever we're looking for something that's really, really colorful. Here's another one with 4 layers of color, different sizes, pink, purple, yellow, and hot pink. The island planting, this was the biggest challenge because technically that tree's not supposed to be there. Luckily it died anyway. Because based on DOT recommendations, everything in at these end caps of these corners are supposed to be very, very low. Now it's hard to do something gorgeous when it's very, very low, but I like the way this turned out. If we go up one again, you can see that here we're using, obviously repeating the same things we did on the other side, with these white accents going on the end, with the darker plant underneath it, with these dark red burgundy accents going here, with the yellow underneath it. Then we have our annual flowers going along the back, and this lime green. The reason I use the lime green, I haven't found any other color that pops bright colors better. There's something about that combination that really adds to the color impact. That little hedges, the little lime hedges are going all the way this way. Now what we've added here is something that is very fashionable right now, and that is a stacked stone wall. This is a Carolina thin veneer stone. It's beautiful. You don't see the grain in this picture. The picture's a little washed out. We're using the existing boulders on the ends, and we're using riverjack rock, and riverjack are smooth stones that are a combination of white, taupe, gray, and beige. You know, this really does look like it needs some help, so let's see what we did for the corners. Here's a close-up, something that needs a little help. Here's the after, and here we see repetition once again, a little bit different in the colorful plants that we're using here. We're using the bougainvillea. I'm going to show you in a second on the other slide, but this one came out a little bit small. Bougainvillea here. Now this is purple bougainvillea. I want to point out the difference. The purple bougainvillea can be sheared by your landscapers and still bloom. It also blooms a lot longer than the red. And have you anybody ever drive around and seen that red bougainvillea kind of growing out like this? Sometimes. The purple doesn't do that. It's a lot better behaved. So we have the purple there. Then we have the really hot pink right here behind it, the white in front of it. I'll show you on the next slide a little bit better. Then we have, once again, our annuals going around, our lime green going here, and our crotons going right here. Now, most of the plants that we have in this design are leaf color rather than flowers, although we have a total of 500 flowering plants with the annuals. There's a reason for that. Flowering shrubs need to get larger in order. Most of the plants that we use here have to be maintained very small. And flowering plants in South Florida, we have these gorgeous shrubs, but they want to be 4, 5, 6 feet tall. So I saw all these other beautiful, beautiful areas where we could put a lot of flowering plants, but right here, it's a tough situation for them. I look forward to the possibility of working throughout Valencia Isles, redesigning your entry to create something spectacular, coloring your clubhouse and grounds with flowers where we can put things that get taller, flowering trees for your roadsides. Thank you for giving me the opportunity of beginning what could be a long and colorful relationship. Thank you. Now, if we could have the lights, I'll take questions. Any questions?
I have a question just about the fact that we have landscapers. They cut the grass, they more or less trim the edges.
Yes.
And when they come to the landscaping, there's a lot of chopping. Who takes care of this, and who is going to take care of this? And is it just going to be our landscapers, and can they really do the job?
I think that's an excellent question, because obviously that's the most important thing after planting this, is that it has to be well maintained. And what I do with a lot of other communities in your situation, number one, you don't have to touch this kind of planting much. It's going to get a lot of weeds in the beginning, all new plantings do. But other than that, we're going to have it on about a twice-a-year trim program and some grooming in between. And what I do a lot of times is I come in with the landscapers. This would be mainly the main trimming that would be done on these. Can you hear me with the echo? Yeah. Can you hear me better now? Oh, good. You can hear me. What I do a lot of times is meet with the landscapers in June, because we do pruning on beds such as this mainly in June. And I work out there working with the Guatemalans. And once I show them once how to do it, they've got it. So Bernie, do you have anything else to say about that? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, listen, I work great with Guatemalans. So, yes, go ahead.
Oh, are you finished with that one?
Yes.
You finished? Okay. You had a punch list of other areas that potentially could be done, but
Yes.
there was one very important one, in my view, that was missing. Our back entrance competes with Valencia Point's front entrance for visual, just for the visual of people driving down Woolbright Road. And in my personal opinion, that's a top priority, is that our back entrance should be competitive with the look. Even though we can't compete with a front entrance, we should have a much more gracious back entrance.
That brings up 2 points, and you're right. I simply left that off. That was one of the areas that I was toured, and we're going to get together a quote for you on estimates for doing all these areas as soon as we get going on this one, so that we can start moving ahead. But the point of the entries, and how many of you have driven up and down Lyons Road recently? Have you seen what they are doing at these entries? Do you realize these are real estate developers? Real estate developers will not spend money on anything unless they're making money on it. And they have figured out that if they have great entries, they can charge more money for those houses. And that's a lesson for all of us. You're right. That back entry needs to be spectacular, as does the front.
Question. I noticed on the side end cap you had a tree, and you talked about the fact that you're glad the tree in the center end cap died.
Yes.
Is there some consistency there?
Is there something different between the center and the sides?
Yes.
Yes. And it's how much, it's the DOT regulations. You have to have so many feet off the end of something that people need to see around. And on the sides, we have grass. See, the grass goes all the way up to right where those beds start. So that gives you the visibility to see around it. In that center section, the whole thing's supposed to stay low. Somebody had planted a tree there, but it died. The 2 palms that are planted on the sides now are in fine shape, and they're going to look terrific with the purple bougainvillea planted next to it.
Hi, in your designs, are you using artificial rocks or real rocks? Because I noticed the real rocks turn black after a year or two. They have to
Right.
be power washed continuously.
Right, we're using real rocks, and the way that we do it with the rocks is, number one, we don't put rocks too often around plantings themselves. The reason being that that's really where the mess comes up, because weeds come up through the rocks and you try to pull it and the rocks get turned around. The other thing is the rocks start to sink and get dirty if you put them around planting areas.
Yeah,
If we're planting them, if we're putting them down that we don't put under planting areas, then we're able to put cloth underneath them, weed cloth. We can't do that on planting areas. That really, really keeps them from sinking. The other thing with the mildew depends on the sun or shade situation. With all of the areas that we're working on here in full sun, you shouldn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't present it right. The boulders, I meant the big
Oh, the
boulders.
boulders.
Because the boulders in front of the clubhouse are artificial, they never turn black. The ones on the entrance are real rocks and they turn black after a year.
Right. The ones at the front are not, we have pictures of all of them. They haven't necessarily turned black. They've turned kind of orange. But what we do, we pressure clean them every couple of years. Any rock that's in any of,
Well, a lot of mine turned white already. They lost their brown color, and they turned white, and then
The-
they turn
the
to
ones
mold.
that, we're just
They
gonna,
get
we
moldy.
want them to be white, or want them to be light, and right now they're all kind of orangey. It looks like, if we put rocks out for the first time, we always pressure wash them before we put them down. So that might be something that every few years you have to do, but I don't think you're gonna have the black mildew in that spot with all the sunshine.
It's just
and
that
air.
the artificial boulders never have changed color on my property over
Right.
15 years.
We're reusing boulders, so,
Okay. All right, then okay, thank you.
yes.
We're all anticipating a big change in the appearance of the community in many different areas, and this is going to give us, I think, a good head start. Other communities have done it already. A lot of communities are doing it now. And I know other communities have a separate designer or company coming and do the actual maintenance. Do you have a maintenance plan, just as a consideration of what we may need that can do a better job on maintaining the money that we
Are
spend?
you talking about, do I have an idea of someone who can do it?
Or
would I write
your-
down the maintenance
Or
plan?
your company, well, the maintenance plan is one thing, but doing it properly, if
Doing
we
it
have
properly,
a
right.
professional coming in, as you say,
Let
either
me-
once a
let-
quarter, once a half, 6 months.
Because, you know, you met Bill. They came by our offices last week and met Bill, and he was talking about another project. Right now, all the projects that we maintain are on A1A, or right around there in Boca Raton. So it would depend on whether, and he was talking about, what was that other job that he's working on near here, Tivoli, he said? Yeah, he was talking about possibly giving them a maintenance plan. If we did that, we could do one to you, but I'll get back to you on that, Paul. Yes,
This may be more a question for the board than it is for you. I see all the work that is being done interiorly. What is the actual priority list? Because I think the front, the fountain area, looks terrible. That's what everybody sees. That's where we drive in. You'll see these lovely lake views once you get through the other area.
Okay, I suggest this is not a question that Pamela can answer. This we'll discuss later on. Okay, we will discuss it this morning, but this is not a question that Pamela can answer.
Well, I said it
this is
might
something
be a
for the board to
question.
decide.
I prefaced everything by
We-
saying that, but I
we'll
thought
let you-
perhaps, she had a priority list now.
No, I don't think she does.
all I can say is I would love to get my hands on that front entry, so we're gonna give a proposal for everything to the board. Yes,
In the rendering of the lake view, we have, you have the palms, on the left side as you're facing it, there are right now Royal Point Siennas. In your rendering, they're not there. Do you propose taking them out?
say that again?
In that lake view on the south side, as you're looking at it coming in, there are Royal Point Siennas right next to those palms. In your rendering, they're not there. Do you-
Right, because we were only putting in the area we did, but we're just going underneath the existing trees, so we're not getting into the poincianas.
Yeah, but in the rendering there, you don't even show the Royal Point Siennas.
Right, we're only showing the area that we're doing,
Okay.
because we're not going outside the parameters of those palms. Yes,
I noticed you were using the lime green hedges in
Yes.
a few of the beds. I love them when they're young. They're beautiful. We have some in the community, and they've gotten very leggy and bald. Is there a way to keep them
Yes.
looking the way you
there
showed
is,
them?
and that's the only plant in the plan. I've recently come up with a new book, but when I first came out with my Florida landscaping books was in 2001, 2003, 2004, 2005. I wrote 4. I was able to find plants that resisted pests, a lot of plants that really resisted pests. That has gone because of the amount of shipping that's coming into our 3 ports in Miami, in Fort Lauderdale, and in West Palm Beach. All these bugs are coming from other tropical countries on the shipping containers, and they're getting loose. We just received word last week. I saw it in the Palm Beach Post. I also saw it. I get all these emails from the Florida Department of Agriculture about a new whitefly that is resistant to pesticides. So in my new book, what I did with the plants, instead of putting no plants in there because all of them get some pests, is I gave them ribbons. A blue ribbon meant they get very few pests. A red ribbon meant they get some. No ribbon meant that they had a real pest susceptibility. The gold mound duranta that you're talking about got no ribbon. and it got no ribbon because the reason that it gets bare is because it has a tendency for whitefly. So that's one, and it's the only one, and we went over this with the committee, that will need to be routinely sprayed. It just needs to be added to the spray list.
I have a question.
Yes.
There's 3 benches in the front, when you come in the front entrance, one smack dab in the middle, that I really find offensive.
Hold
I
on,
think
Bernie, can you undo that poster?
there
We have a
were-
poster here that shows it, and what we can do is show you where we put the benches, because I didn't
think
like the
it's
bench
nice
in the
to
middle.
have the benches there, but not
The-
smack dab in the front.
Yeah, because to me, as you're driving through that entry, that the opening in between the palms is the window to the water and the fountain. So I didn't want to put anything there. If you can just hold this up, I don't know if you can see this far away. We put the benches here. Okay, that's the end. That's the right end, and then we put it on the other one on the end. Maybe we can just prop that on a chair, Bernie? Any more questions?
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
Wait a minute. Esther, get a mic.
I was interested in knowing if you grow your own landscaping plants or you buy them through wholesalers, and how long are they guaranteed for once you put them in?
Okay, that's a good question. At this point, we buy from places. In a job such as this, what I ended up doing, because I wanted to go with smaller plants because we didn't have the budget. So actually, there were some growers in Miami, for example, who had the same plants that were $19 each, and I needed to try to find them for $8 each. So what we've done here is actually contract grow the plants, meaning we find a local grower who does really, really well, and we pre-order the plants like 4 or 5 months ahead of time so that they'll have them ready. But the idea of where the plant comes from, I think, is very, very important because we have good growers and we have bad growers. On our staff is Jennifer Minuti. She's our Vice President of Operations. She has a degree from Virginia Tech, a horticulture degree. She's been in the business for 25 years. She's in charge of our plant buying. We go anywhere. We find the absolute best plants they are. We go to Fort Myers. We go to Homestead. We go here, we go there, and they've never ever told me when I'm doing a job, because I'm a plant fanatic in terms of getting the best ones to the job. They've never said to me, Pamela, you're making us go to too many places. If I tell them they have to go to 44 places to pick up the plants for the jobs, they do it. We get them there because we feel that, look at a company that's won 30 awards. We do very, very good work. Yes.
Hi. There's an old saying that you don't get a second chance for a first impression. So I wanted to congratulate Bernie for bringing Pamela in.
Oh,
I
thank
thought
you.
the presentation was very
Thank
well
you
done.
very much. Thank
and
you.
it looks beautiful.
Anybody else?
This gentleman up here has had his hand up a lot. I think you deserve a chance, sir. You've been very patient. What is your name? Okay, Ron.
Now that you mentioned the fact that you pre-plan or have a grower grow for you, in terms of assuming, let's say, a contract was signed, what's the start date? What's the end date? As far as days from?
We want to plant in October. The reason being that it's going to take that long to get all the plants grown. I think actually they said we could get all the plants grown by August, but the sun is too hot in August to put out some of the things that we want to put out, so we want to put it in as early in October as we can. It depends. The planting time depends on what plants we're planting. Most plants we plant all year, but we do have some here that could burn up in August.
A quick question. You didn't answer the question about how long the plants are warranted.
Oh, warranty. That's a good point. We warranty the plants. The point of a plant warranty from a landscape contractor is that we fix any mistakes that we made. Okay? The most common plants that are made by, most common mistakes made by landscape contractors are that the guys either break a stem when they're planting or they plant the plant too deep. If the soil gets up around the stem of a plant, it'll die. They die pretty quickly. They die normally within a week, 2 weeks. You call the office, we come back and take care of them. Everybody used to offer 1-year warranties, but with all the bugs that are around now, We've gone to 90 days like most other people too. And what I like to explain to people about putting the plants in is what we are is, think back to when you had your children. We're like the obstetrician who's delivering the baby. We are delivering the garden to you. And we give you all the care instructions, et cetera, of how to take care of it. But at that point, it goes to the landscape maintenance company, who would be like the pediatrician is to the child. That's the company that actually cares for them afterwards. More questions? Yes.
You're not really using any cactus or anything? You don't really
Succulents?
think there's any positive for cactus?
We're going for
with the
color
heat?
on this particular. I love succulent gardens. Oh my gosh, there's just some gorgeous things going on here now with textures. But the primary goal for this garden was color.
Okay.
Every single plant's colorful. Oh, I forgot something important. The white table. See where that man is with the white shirt, that attractive man standing? The white table just to the right of him. I have 2 of my business cards. I have the Botanical Visions card. I'm vice president of landscape architecture there, and you can see our corporate website. And then I have my own card, PamelaCrawford.com, which shows my personal website, and I have over 2,000 images there and all kinds of videos. So if you're interested in gardening and stuff, you might want to pick one of those up. Any more questions? Yes.
Wait a minute, hang on.
Not a question, just a comment. Underplanting, planting small plants is the way to go. If you look at any of the new developments, they're all overplanted. Everything is smushed together so it looks full. In 6 months and a year, it looks ridiculous. Because this is what they do. The builders all put in too many plants, then they look horrible. If we put in the small plants, they will grow to the right size and it'll look better.
Thank you so much. Sometimes it's hard because we like to have our customers very, very happy. And here we are finishing up a job with the little plants, and it's certainly not what I had envisioned of looking beautiful like this. It's little plants where you see the mulch in between. So I can kind of understand why a lot of people in our field overplant, because here they are asking the person for the check, and the plants are still small. But what happens is I'm always apologizing to my customers during our installations and saying, it's going to grow, it's going to grow, it's going to grow. And they say, are you sure you put enough? Are you sure you put enough? And then I go back 2 years later and they say, we think you gave us too many. So you just need to know how to keep them trimmed, to keep them, and I'll help you with that. Yes?
I'm waiting, Ron. Quick question about the bullnose, that center thing that we can't have high plants.
Right.
But is it possible, or should there be a focal point or something? Because it all is very.
It's very flat.
Yeah, it's very
flat. What I
flat.
did there, the thing that's about that space is it's meant to be viewed from all sides. So what I did was the 3 accent areas, so that each side you view it at, you're going to see a focal point, but the focal point moves around it because you're going to always be moving right around it. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
We got,
Yes. The bullnose on Jog, you mean the main entry? Waterfall.
we're not doing that. No, we're not doing that. Okay, not yet, anyways. Not yet. We'll talk. All right. One more question.
Did you say you take returns on babies?
I like babies. Yeah, does anybody have any babies they want to give away?
The question was, did you say that you plant annuals or perennials?
We have annuals. The pink line, these. If you can see these pink plants, they go all the way around, are annuals. All the other plants are plants that last. And there's a reason for that, because I wanted to have some flowers in the design. You can get a lot of color without flowers. You can get a lot of color from leaves. But my feeling is that you need the flowers to soften the design. So we do have the annuals as accents in the different areas.
So then you have to come back each year and replant.
Right. Twice a year they're done again. No, we don't do the annuals. No.
Okay, Pamela, thank you so much.
Thank
A
you, and
wonderful
thank everybody in
presentation.
Valencia.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break. The board will gather up and we will start the regular board meeting. If you want to discuss this further, it will be part of the meeting. Thank you.